God orchestrates history in order to accomplish his purposes. One of the ways he did this is by using Israel's neighboring nation, the Philistines, to bring judgment upon Israel. But have we ever thought that climate played a factor in this biblical event? Dr. Kevin Birdwell, as a Christian and a climatologist, do you see God using climate as a way to accomplish his purposes with the people of Israel?
It would definitely seem so. Maybe you even thought, where were the Philistines when the Israelites invaded Israel? Because they're not mentioned. And I think the reason they're not mentioned is because they weren't there at the time. The Philistines actually came from what we now know as Greece, the Aegean Sea region. And this is really the result of a drought. The people that lived in that area, this was around 1200 BC, suffered a major drought that encompassed, excuse me, about 100 years of that time frame. And they all migrated through the eastern Mediterranean and tried to find other areas to settle in along, say, the coast of Syria, Israel, what is now Lebanon, even Egypt. Now, they were largely repelled from Egypt, but many of them settled on the coastal plain of Israel. And in doing so, they displaced a lot of the Israelites that were already there. And many of those Israelites had to move to the mountains of Israel, just to the east. In fact, there's archaeological evidence that shows there were about 300 new Israelite settlements during that time frame. And another benefit of the Israelites moving up in the mountains was, although it doesn't seem like the drought was as intense in Israel, maybe, and probably the reason that the Philistines settled there, but the Israelites themselves probably would have been getting more rain and thus more success with their crops than the Philistines because of them being up in the mountains. In meteorology, there's a process called orographic lift, and basically what this means is that air is rising up the side of the mountain. So from here, it would be coming from the Mediterranean Sea from those coastal plains where the Philistines lived, and it would be going up into the mountains. And as it's doing that, air cools, and cooler air cannot hold as much moisture, so moisture gets squeezed out of the air, and you get more rainfall. So really, the Israelites would have been, if there was drought going on even there, they would have been better off there. So it's not surprising that maybe the Philistines were attacking them, perhaps because they wanted some of their goods. And another thing that made the Philistines really difficult to deal with is they had iron technology. They had iron tools and iron weapons, and the Israelites did not up till that time. So that made it more difficult. And also around this time frame, I'm not sure of the exact timing, but it would be in this general time frame. This is also when you had Gideon and the Midianites. The Midianites were more from Arabia to the east or southeast. And again, they would not probably be benefiting from the rains that the Israelites were getting because they were in the lee of the mountain range. And so you have the opposite effect of orographic lift. You have less rainfall in
More
that
of a
situation.
desert type
Right,
climate.
right. And you see this in California, for example. So the Midianites invaded the land of Israel, again, looking for the Israelites' crops and other things that they could take. And, of course, God raised up Gideon during this time. But one thing I find that's interesting is there must have been a concern about rainfall even among the Israelites, because Gideon's family, before God intervened, was worshiping Baal, and Baal is the rain god or storm god. So you can definitely see the relationship in all of this with the drought that was occurring in the Aegean Sea and possibly beyond at that time.